Oh hi, my name is Greg and welcome to chapter 5 of my 1949 P3 Rover restoration story. Today I'm just going to cover, really a small part of the restoration. If you recall back to the very first chapter that I did in this sort of series of videos on my restoration project, you may recall that I bought a car that had quite a number of parts missing. So today's episode is going to be on replacing one of those missing parts. When I bought the car, it had been partially dismantled and the floor of the car had been removed, and also the seat rails, that's the best way I can describe it, had been removed. So there's some rails which basically guide the forwards and backward movement of the front seats. They've been removed and unfortunately lost. So today's episode is about replacing those parts. I hope you find it interesting. In this photo you can see some seat rails that I borrowed from a contact that I made through the Rover Car Club here in South Australia, a chap by the name of Alvin. Alvin also is restoring a P3 Rover, and he very kindly lent me these seat rails. So you can see the seat rails that I borrowed at the front of the shot, and the back of the shot you can see my attempt at making the seat rails. At this point they were fairly well advanced and not a lot more work to do at this point. This is a bit of a close-up shot of the seat rails that I made. In the next bit of video, which is a bit of video I shot probably more than 2 years ago now, I'll just give a bit of a summary of the overall job. It will be just a little bit repetitive because when I shot this video I didn't really have a plan for this overall episode. A part that I've been working on, actually it feels like for months now, is these seat rails. The two rails that you see on the bench here I borrowed from a friend called Alvin. Alvin's kindly lent these to me. He has the same model car that I have, although he's probably got a little further to go on his restoration project than me. So these are the seat rails. What they do, sit under the front seat. This is the centre one. You can see it's got sort of holes along the side which allow for sort of fixed forward and backward adjustment. So once you've pushed the seat back as far as you want, you can then sort of lock it in place into one of those notches. And then either side of the centre one there's a seat rail like this which has basically a stop at one end. The seat rails are kind of spring loaded. They have like a sort of sponge rubber in the middle. The originals would have been made out of pressed steel. I've made mine, machined mine out of solid bars of steel, and I've used the same idea, the sponge rubber in the side. So that's my centre one, and you can see on the other bench here that I've got all the other seat rails. So in all there's 6 of them. Pretty happy with the end result. It took a bit of time. It took quite a while to machine them. I basically had to machine a big slot through the middle and then use a T-slot cutter to do a sort of undercut cut on both sides. So a fair bit of machining there for the little mill, but I'd say very happy with the result. Well, to be honest, they're probably better than the original. Back with the partly finished seat rails now. In the next little bit of video, I've just tried to give a description of the machining processes. It's a fairly basic overview. Okay, unfortunately when I was making these seat rails I didn't take a lot of photos. I was just too busy making the rails, to be honest. So what I started off with was just a rectangular piece of steel which I then machined down to the finished dimensions. After I'd done that I had to machine to this profile where it had like a slot right through the whole length of the rail, and then it had to have like an undercut on either side as you see in this very rough sketch. It also had to have an insert that was sort of roughly that profile which sat inside here and then was effectively spring loaded by some sponge rubber. So to make it after I'd machined the right dimensions in a sort of rectangular piece of steel, I used a slot mill cutter similar to that. Then after I'd cut the slot through, I used a cutter similar to this. This is known as a T-slot cutter, and that allows you to sort of do that undercut on either side. I hope that sort of describes it. In the next little bit of video, I actually show the seat rails in situ actually fitted to the car, just to give a better idea of how it all works. Here we are out with the car. I'm just going to have a quick look at where these seat rails are. Not that you're going to be able to see too much, but here we are opening the front door. And if we go way down here, down, I might just focus in on that. You can hopefully see the seat rails. The centre one there, you can see it's got a lever, which you lever out, and then that engages in some slots on the side of the seat rail, and then there's 2 seat rails on either side of that. With this shot, I'll wrap up this episode of my 1949 P3 Rover restoration story. This shot just shows the seat rails ready to be fitted to the car. A big step forward actually getting these finished. I mean, I guess it's a part that's sort of out of sight, out of mind. But prior to making these parts, I had basically no way of fitting the seats to the car. So a big step forward, and I hope you enjoy this episode.